Aloha and welcome to A Course in Miracles. We're in the Workbook for Students and this is Lesson 79. Let me recognize the problem so that it can be solved. A problem cannot be solved if you don't know what it is. Even if it's really solved already, you'll still have the problem because you will not recognize that it's been solved. And this is the situation of the world. In other words, the situation of the world is that it doesn't recognize that the problem has already been solved because it really doesn't recognize the problem. So this is the situation of the world, the problem of separation. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem, has already been solved. Yet the solution is not recognized because the problem isn't recognized. Everyone in this world seems to have his own special problems, yet they are all the same. And they must be recognized as one if the one solution that solves them all is to be accepted. Who can see that a problem has been solved if he thinks the problem is something else? Even if he is given the answer, he can't see its relevance. And that is the position in which you and me and everyone else finds themselves in right now. We have the answer, but we're still uncertain of what the problem is. A long series of different problems seems to confront us. And as one is settled, the next one and the next one arise. There seems to be no end to them. There is no time in which we feel completely free of problems and at peace. The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. The world seems to present you with a vast number of problems, each requiring a different answer. This perception places you in a position in which your problem solving must be inadequate, and failure is inevitable. No one could solve all the problems the world appears to hold. They seem to be on so many levels, in such varying forms, and with such varied content that they confront you with an impossible situation. And I know that many of us have felt that before. This is just impossible. Dismay and depression are inevitable as you regard all these problems. Some spring up unexpectedly, just as you think you've resolved the previous ones. Others remain unsolved under a cloud of denial and rise to haunt you. They do from time to time, only to be hidden again, but still unsolved. All this complexity is but a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem, and therefore not to let it be resolved. If you could recognize that your only problem is separation, no matter what form it takes, you could accept the answer because you would see its relevance. Perceiving the underlying constancy in all the problems that seem to confront you you would understand that you have the means to solve them all. And you would use the means because you recognize the problem. You know, when the Course in Miracles was first penned by Helen Schuckman, it's not like this in the book, but the first thing that came to her of the Course was the first principle of miracles, which is that there's no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not harder or bigger than another. They are all the same. And the reason that is, I think, is because of this, what this particular lesson is trying to tell us, that we normally think of miracles as something that solves our problems. But if all of our problems just go back to the one problem of separation, and the atonement principle, which says that the separation never occurred, is the one solution. So, you know, I've been doing this course for quite a while now. But this is one that I still need to really remind myself of, because all the little problems that come up during the day that are already solved in this one principle, I often forget and, get all tied up in whatever it is that's going on at my work or going on with my kids. So I'm really looking forward to just really getting a deeper understanding of how I really only have this one problem of separation. So we're going to do, in the longer practice periods today, we will claim the peace that must be ours when the problem and the answer have been brought together. So the problem is separation, and the answer is the atonement principle. So we're going to bring those together. We're going to bring the problem to the answer. And we're accepting the peace, or claiming the peace that is definitely ours, because we know that the one problem has been solved by the one answer. Recognize that you are out of conflict. I mean, you might feel like you're in conflict, so we're going to try to recognize that because the problem has already been solved, that we're out of conflict. Free, conflict-free, and at peace. And above all, we're going to remember that we only have one problem, and that problem has one solution. It is in this that the simplicity of salvation lies. There you go. It is because of this that it's guaranteed to work. Assure yourself often today that all your problems have past tense, have been solved. Repeat the idea with deep conviction as frequently as possible. And be particularly sure to apply the idea for today to any specific problem that may arise. I mean, as soon as it does, say quickly, let me recognize that this problem has already been solved. So let us be determined. not to collect grievances today. You know, we've been talking about grievances, how they hide the miracle and all that. How we're entitled to miracles, and if we just let go and forgive and let go of the grievances, we'll see the miracle, the change in perception. So quickly we're going to recognize that our problem, when it seems to come up, has been solved. And we're not going to collect grievances, but we're going to be determined to be free of problems that do not exist. They do not exist. And this is not a denial of something that you think is really there. I mean, you could easily let it become that, but if you do, then you're not really catching what the Course is saying here. The Course is not really teaching us to forget, to deny that we have any problems, deny that anything is bothering us, deny that we may be in fear about something. The Course is telling us that we need to look at that seeming problem or that seeming fear right in the face, that cloud of darkness. And we need to pass through it. We need to look at it and not deny it. Sometimes it's hard to deny it if it's a pain, in your body or something like that. But we're to look at that problem, the Course says, with Jesus, and let the Holy Spirit or Jesus or your higher self or whatever you want to call it or her, to look at it and let the truth that there is no problem, not deny it in your head, but to really actually see that the one problem, which is our belief that the separation occurred and we're out there all alone in the world, facing everything all by ourselves with no one to help us, that never happened. It's untrue. The fall, the sin, and all that, none of it ever happened. God is not mad at us. He has not kicked us out of paradise. None of that our religions may have taught us, or that may be in our subconscious, or feelings that we're just no good and unworthy. None of that is true. But because we've identified with the ego, which is the symbol of the separation, we've spent our whole life believing this untruth. So this whole Course is about not denying problems, but seeing that the problems really don't exist and we have nothing to be afraid of. We have nothing to fear. So that's why we're doing this workbook, is to bring us to that point where we're not living in denial, but we're living in truth. And, it may take a while. I mean, this is a big book here. And it says it's very simple. But it still takes all these pages to try to convince us that this simple problem is so. And it takes this whole year and this whole workbook to bring us, to train our mind enough to where we can really begin to see, to really discover our true self and who we really are, and remember God again. So that's why, the thing we really need to do in this workbook is to actually do the best we can at following the instructions, and so that we'll get that result. So if it says, once every hour, say, let me recognize that this problem has been solved. It says that for a reason, and that's the whole thing. It's not just trying to believe what the book says, but it's really training our mind to get still so that we can really begin to allow this light that is our true self to break through, and for enlightenment to come, and the waking from the dream to happen. So let us be determined today not to collect grievances. Let us be determined to be free of problems that do not exist. The means is simple honesty. Do not deceive yourself about what the problem is, and you must recognize that it has been solved. So this is like we're getting into a really deep things, and that are going to take vision that's beyond just what the normal senses tell us. And so we're going to go over these things. Tomorrow we're going to start a new review. But today we're going to try to see that we only have one problem, and that one problem has already been solved. So good luck with that. I hope that you have an awesome day today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for spending this time doing the workbook with me. Aloha.